welcome back to Radical Podcast. I'm Ryan McKenna, and we're back with radical ideas and radically new ways to look at the world around us, our institutions, our society, each other, nature, and to shift the way that we look at all these things, and the way that we work with them, and the way that we interpret them. So those of you who have listened to previous episodes know that my whole goal with this is just start conversations, to just get people talking, around the water cooler if you're like me and you're strapped into an office job, however temporary that might be. In your backyard, around the campfire, if you've got that sort of thing, in your apartment building, when you're checking the mail, I want that to become the norm, because our institutions are so obviously dysfunctional. Notice I use that word a lot, dysfunctional. Dysfunctional is a word that is far more objective than saying corrupt or bad or good or something that is a judgment of some sort. Evil is just a human idea, you see. Evil's a very, very human idea. We have notions of what's good and what's bad, and we apply that to the world around us. And to a point, we understand that we can do that, and it helps us. It aids us in navigating through the world. We can look at poison ivy and say, well, that's bad. I don't want to be anywhere near it because I know it's going to cause me discomfort. But what's really going on there, it's bad to you, but as far as nature's concerned, it's just part of the process, right? However, what we can describe from an objective viewpoint, from a logical, rational, sort of scientific viewpoint, is that it produces dysfunction in your body. You touch poison ivy, the oils get into your skin, and they interfere with your cells, and we can safely call that dysfunction. Your body's not working harmoniously, and things are thrown into a disarray. There we go. Sorry. So the point that I'm getting at is that dysfunction is all around us. It's not bad, it's not good, but it's a learning opportunity for us. Creates a lot of very, very uncomfortable, dysfunctional scenarios for people. Things like rampant poverty. That's dysfunctional because it's not good for anyone, except for the very, very few. Death is not the problem. Premature death is a problem. Horribly painful, senseless death is a problem. That's dysfunction. Death is part of the normal order of things. As much as we might fear it, as much as we might want to avoid it, death is not the problem. By the way, none of this is the topic for today. What I'm trying to get across, and what I really want you to take away from any episode of the Radical Podcast, is that we all have the tools at our disposal to identify these dysfunctions in the world, the imbalances, ways that we're not working harmoniously with what is. We're looking at illusions, and that's creating the dysfunction. We have the tools to examine and break down these illusions. We have the internet, and a lot of the information on the internet can be so contradictory and so much noise at times. However, each of us is a part of a network of minds, of processing engines, that is gathering up the information on the internet, and we're using a very decentralized, democratic process to analyze and determine truth. For example, someone tweets something, there's a photo of Donald Trump with a quote over it, claiming to be from People magazine. Sounds exactly like something he'd say. It's something to the tune of, if I was ever going to run for president, I'd run as a Republican because it's so easy to fool, or something like that. But he didn't say it. It's not true. So, sooner or later, someone like me or you or, someone critical is going to see that, and they're going to do a quick Google search, try to find the origin of the source. They're not going to find it, and as such, they'll be able to correct it. And it might float around for a while longer, but eventually, people are going to see it and go, oh, not that again. And so through this process, through billions of minds, simultaneously sifting through information all throughout the internet, we can break down these illusions. We can get rid of untruths. We have so many different perspectives that we can look at these things from, so we can see the holes, we can see the gaps, we can see where it doesn't make sense. If we all just do that, and it's what we are doing, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, every single day that we're online, that we're going through the world, and then we're taking what we see in the world and we're introducing it back to the online world, and vice versa. We're taking what we hear and read and see in the online world, and we're talking about it to our friends and our colleagues and our neighbors and our family. In any case, have the conversations. Have the conversations. The more ideas we exchange, the more we talk about this stuff, the more we can figure out solutions. And if you think that standing around in your backyard having these conversations isn't going to solve anything, then you're wrong, because this is exactly the point. These problems cannot be solved within the halls of the United States Congress or the Canadian Parliament or the British Parliament or any of those places, because the problem is the centralization of power. The solution will be us taking it back, taking our voices back, taking our souls back from religion, taking our money back from banks, taking all of these things back and keeping them in our communities. If each community does that, each community will be taken care of by itself instead of depending on a larger system. So that's why I say your community is where it all starts. Where you are every day, where you're a stakeholder in the future of it. That's where it starts. And if you're the sort of person who doesn't put down roots, your community is wherever you are right now. It's whatever you're experiencing right now, the people you're with. That's your community. So maybe you're in the global community. Maybe you backpack everywhere and you travel around the world. Well, then it's your global community. So your community is your hostels and your hotels and your campgrounds. That's your community, and that's where you can talk. And you're going to meet like-minded people who share that community, whether it's a geographic one or a social community. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it all starts within your community, within the people that mean something to you, that you have a stake in their future and they have a stake in yours. That's where it all starts, and that's where we can all band together. So on that note, I'm going to move into today's topic. And today's topic is marijuana. Something that I think a great deal of us are very interested in, whether we partake or not. And the current shape of the marijuana industry, the current climate, the current environment that we are in, the now, the reality, is that there is a groundswell of momentum for everyone. And part of this is due to marijuana activism and the industry behind it. And some of it is due to people who don't participate in the community, just not worrying about it anymore, not being scared of it anymore. The fear is diminished, so the resistance is gone. The resistance is going away in any case. The mind state is shifting. Large part of this has to do with the medicinal qualities of it. The medicinal qualities are, at this point, I think, indisputable. Any decent research paper that's been done that has not been financed by the pharmaceutical industry or some other extremely biased source has come out highly in favor of marijuana as a medicinal treatment. But there's more. It's non-toxic. That is absolutely huge. We don't have medicine that's non-toxic, that's made by humans. It doesn't exist. Tylenol, aspirin, Advil is all toxic in relatively low quantities. Half a bottle. Take 4 extra, and if you've got the bad body chemistry, that can send you to the hospital. That can hurt you. That does not happen with marijuana. It doesn't. It is non-toxic. It does not create dysfunction in your body's systems. It shifts the function, but maintains a harmonious, synchronous state. It allows for a shift in perspective without causing your body to go into chaos. It allows us to relax, depending on the strain, to inhibit pain, stimulate immune response, to stimulate cognitive activity, thinking, to stimulate hypersensitivity of your senses, heightened awareness. It is a versatile plant. It is a versatile medicine. And more than that, it's a safe recreational experience. The one damaging quality of marijuana that I will admit to is that if you light any sort of carbon-based substance on fire and breathe in the result, it will be damaging to your lungs, to your breathing. That's just common sense. Carbon has a tendency to scratch. The particulate is very abrasive. So it causes damage over time to your lungs. However, cigarettes are chemically designed so that the smoke and the chemicals in it, mostly the artificial ones, organic tobacco isn't like this, but cigarettes, when you light them on fire and you breathe in the result, it goes down to what are known as alveoli, tiny, tiny microscopic sacs that take in air, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. And they also take in, when forced to, these chemicals, and that's what gives you your nicotine and all the other addictive compounds that are in cigarettes. So it goes really deep into the lungs, as deep as it can possibly go, so everything goes into the bloodstream. However, with marijuana, it's been found that the vast majority of the smoke does not, because it's larger particles, it's too large to get into the alveoli, or at least much of it. It goes to the bronchioles, which is a halfway point, a highway of sorts to all the smaller streets that lead to the alveoli. And the bronchioles can take an awful lot more punishment. You can still get bronchitis, don't get me wrong, but by and large, the damage done to them heals itself very, very, very quickly. So that's why when you meet a chronic cigarette smoker, they have a very deep, vibrating, rattly cough from deep in their lungs, and they're always hacking up globules of phlegm, the mucus that pools down there because of the damage. It's a protective measure of the lungs, of the body, just like in your nose or any other sensitive glands. So you don't get that with marijuana smokers. Look at a long-time marijuana smoker, and you will find them to, maybe they've got a bit of a smoker's talk, but the cough isn't there. Not like in a cigarette smoker, not anywhere near the force, the velocity, and it's usually only when they're actually smoking it they'll cough, and everyone coughs when you smoke marijuana because it's harsh, because it's larger particles. It can't make it that deep into your lungs. And moreover, I've talked about the notion of retrograde transmission, which is what the THC, the cannabinoids within marijuana, use within your nervous system. It's fascinating. They, instead of acting as doormen at a part of the neuron called the postsynaptic membrane, which is what all of our pharmaceuticals do, if they work on your nervous system, they attach to the postsynaptic membrane and they change what can get in. They block the doorways there. And that is where a lot of the dysfunction comes in from SSRIs. Because they're blocking transmission of, like, the normal transmission along those pathways. Alcohol does a similar thing where it just sort of inhibits the production of these things altogether. But marijuana, THC, cannabinoids, they attach to the presynaptic membrane, and this is a very unique difference. There's no other substance that we are currently aware of that uses retrograde transmission from the presynaptic membrane to the postsynaptic membrane. So it's choosing what gets produced and where what's produced goes. They're more of a targeting and firing control as opposed to just a block. It's really quite fascinating. I recommend looking into it. But the point is that it doesn't create the dysfunction. Instead, it creates the formation of new pathways within the nervous system. This is due to neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to adapt and to grow and to create new formations, new structures within it. All of this means that marijuana actually heightens your cognitive ability with new pathways rather than closing off other ones or diminishing other ones. Moreover, do you know how much marijuana you or anyone else would have to ingest in some way, either through smoking or through eating or through injection, I suppose? The equivalent of 1,500 pounds of marijuana. Even in extract form. That is impossible. It is not, a human being is not capable of ingesting that much. We simply do not have the digestive system to take it in, or the lung system to take it all in. We are limited in what we can take in. And as such, it is impossible. And that's a theoretical number because we've never gotten there. They've just determined that through what the absolute saturation point would be and what's beyond it. No one has ever overdosed on marijuana. People have thought they did because they're using new neural pathways they weren't used to. So everything felt alien and felt strange, and that sent them off to the hospital because they thought that something was broken in them. Probably because someone had instilled some sort of fear of marijuana over the years in them. Whether it's the media, their parents, their friends, whatever, that's what happens. There is one popular story that's going around right now. And it's come back over and over and over through the past several decades. And I'm not sure where they're getting their numbers from, but it's discussing the potential correlation between youth smoking marijuana and schizophrenia. Saying that it can provoke schizophrenic or psychotic episodes. Well, that is easily debunked, and I will tell you how. The rate of marijuana smoking and using has gone steadily up for the past, say, 4 decades. The rate of schizophrenia and psychosis within society has stayed exactly the same per capita. There is no correlation between them whatsoever. You can look up the numbers yourself. I am driving, so I don't have time to look it up, but I've examined it, and it seems quite legit. If you have any arguments with those numbers, please, by all means, message me, DM me, comment on this podcast, or tweet at me on Twitter. Any of those things. I'm always open to feedback. I always want to know if I'm getting something wrong. I can't correct it if you don't tell me. But to me, this seems pretty cut and dry. Have you ever seen anyone overdose on marijuana? I highly doubt it. You've probably seen someone freak out. I think I freaked out my first time smoking it, or at least really smoking it, if you know what I mean. But like I say, it's because you're generating new pathways. And I will say this as well. If it does provoke a schizophrenic or psychotic episode in someone, it's probably because that person was prone to it anyways. They were already on the edge of the cliff, teetering and tottering. That's just my theory. I don't have any numbers or data to back it up, but based on what I've seen, what I've experienced, and what I've read about just how it functions within us, it doesn't seem like it has the potential to do anything that you weren't already set up to do anyways. So yeah, I'm an absolute advocate of marijuana, and I love that legalization is happening in many, many United States. And I love that small and medium-sized business is behind it. And there's a very good reason for that right now, and it's happening in Canada too for roughly the same reason. And that's that federal law has not yet changed. Federal legalization of marijuana still hasn't happened in Canada or the United States or anywhere else, I think, besides, say, Amsterdam. So, that means large national or multinational corporations are governed under federal regulation, not state or provincial. That means they cannot operate. Small and medium-sized business, however, that is located only within that province or state can. In places like Victoria and Vancouver in Canada, and all along the western seaboard and of the United States. This means we have a unique opportunity right now. Anyone who's in the industry, anyone who wants to get into the industry, and it is a big industry. It's big. It is billions, if not trillions of dollars within North America. There is great demand for it. It has the potential to make many, many, many people's lives better. It has the potential to make us all interact with each other in a much more peaceful, pleasant way, understanding way, and empathic way. It has a very real potential to do that. But the danger here, if you listen to my institutions and decentralization episode, or really any of my other stuff, then this will, you will have seen this coming. But the danger is the big corporations pushing the change and pushing into the industry, taking the market over, setting up shops, or dictating legislation that props them up and destroys the small and medium-sized businesses. This is a very, very real danger in losing a progressive fight that we have almost won. We've almost won the marijuana battle. Popular momentum is behind legalization everywhere. And what's more, the legalization of marijuana stands a very, very, very real chance of changing our communities for the better by giving us a gold rush that we can all take part in. Every community can take part in this. You can have your own grow-ops. You can have a community grow-op, so long as the legislation allows for it. So long as, of course, it's healthy and you open it up to inspectors and all that stuff. I don't dispute health regulations. What I dispute is regulations that give an edge to big corporations that can afford massive facilities and, things of that nature that are unnecessary for marijuana cultivation. It's unnecessary for safe marijuana cultivation. Marijuana is safe already. The biggest holdup to this legislation being passed throughout the decades, and the biggest reason why it was made illegal in the first place, is because it was cutting into someone else's profits. And because they couldn't profit off of it, because it can't be patented, because it's nature. can't change it into something else because then it doesn't work. They've tried making synthetic marijuana so that they could patent it and sell it, but it doesn't work. It works in some aspects of pain relief, but then it makes people sick to their stomachs. Now, this is a medication that's being prescribed for cancer patients who can't eat. That doesn't work. That's dysfunctional. That is not what marijuana does. And you can't replicate it because marijuana is a complex harmony of hundreds of different cannabinoids, not just THC and CBD, but a whole orchestra playing in concert together. And it works because nature put it together, because nature does complex. Nature does insanely intricate jigsaw puzzles. And that's what we are. We're insanely intricate jigsaw puzzles also. Many systems whirling around. You need something that works and maintains a balance in all those systems. And that is exactly what marijuana does. And us messing with it makes it worse every time. We can breed it, we can put it in conditions, environmental conditions that allow it to evolve and to adapt and to change. That's different. That's not working against nature. That's allowing nature to continue and maybe even accelerating it. In fact, it's the basis of alchemy. It's what alchemists were trying to do, not just with marijuana, but with nature itself. Accelerate natural processes by changing the environment that they're happening within. It's where hermetically sealed containers and Bunsen burners or Bunsen candle burners came from. The alchemists, they were trying to accelerate processes by adding heat and by adding, various other compounds to it to make everything change faster. Because, as we know, gold is produced within the earth. Gold's only one example of transmutation, but gold's produced within the earth through natural process. And what they're trying to do is replicate that natural process sped up by adding more energy than what the earth provides, but still allowing it to happen at the same stages, just quicker. The point that I'm making is that the complexity is there because it's a natural process. We're not interfering we're not refining it down and breaking it apart and trying to make it something it's not. We need to keep small and medium-sized businesses at the helm of this. What that means is we need solidarity, not competition. We need cooperation. There's lots of this market to go around. Everyone can do well with this. Growers, dispensaries, it creates jobs. Well-paying jobs. Because small businesses generally pay better. They care more about their communities because they live in them. That's what we need. We don't need any big corporations handling this. We need to keep this money at home. There is so much money here, so many resources, and an actual opportunity to redistribute the balance of power in at least one industry. And that industry is recreational substances and medicine, pharmaceuticals. And it works. It's fantastic. We have this tremendous opportunity right now to take back our power in a very real way by fighting the centralization of the marijuana industry. It absolutely is coming. When federal legislation is drafted, there will be voices whispering into those legislators' ears, trying to sway the balance of power to allow them to come in and edge everyone else out. It'll be the same people who are behind the tobacco companies, the alcohol companies, same people who are behind big pharmaceuticals and big oil. They're all going to want a piece of this pie. So, we need solidarity. We need to band together, to work together, Be strong, be cooperative, look out for one another. All the communities across North America who are stakeholders in this. And you're all stakeholders, and you know why? Because these are jobs, these are opportunities for all of us to pull ourselves out of the struggle. Do something you love. Do some farming, community farming. You don't need a farm, you don't need acres. You need rooms and electricity. As communities, we can put together community power stations with solar panels and wind turbines and whatever else is nearby, hydroelectric, on a small dam in a river. We're clever, we're smart, we can do this. We can revitalize our communities by generating revenue through small, medium-sized marijuana industries and give people jobs. We can do it in a smart way by just not letting kids touch it. It's what we do with alcohol. I don't think it should be treated like alcohol or tobacco because it's not like them at all. Both of them are toxic. Marijuana is the opposite. It's healing. In any case, my recommendation to anyone involved with the industry, anyone who wants to get into the industry, especially if you want to open up a small dispensary in a place that is currently either gray area or outright allows it, do it. Do it now. Do it while we have the opportunity to establish ourselves, to bond together, to create a voice, a unified voice, protecting our communities from the giant hand of multinational corporations that do not need the money. They do not need the resources. We do. Everyone knows it. So let's change it. Let's see it coming, stop it from happening. I hope that there are many, many other people who are already doing this right now. I hope there's many people who are thinking about it and who are communicating and talking. I don't know. If you're in the industry, let me know. Let me know what the frontier looks like. It's the Wild West right now. But if we don't become the sheriffs, if we don't start keeping our town safe, our community safe, through the process, through the battle in the West, then the new order is going to be imposed upon us. Definitely, without question. And we'll lose if we are not banded together. We're strong together, weak working against each other. And they can play that. That's what they do. They make sure everyone's working against each other, and as soon as that happens, they do something sneaky and nasty to edge you out, to keep you from gaining or regaining your power. I don't want to see that happen to anyone. I want to see this be a glorious opportunity for average people, for poor people, for how we do things, for changing it. So, everything in a nutshell, speak up for marijuana. Really, do it. Even if you don't smoke it yourself, even if you don't enjoy it, speak up for it. Because it's a fundamentally good thing right now. It's a good thing for us. It's not going to hurt someone. You know, it's not, this isn't going to come back on us. The legalization process takes away the only bad thing about marijuana, which was the fact that it was illegal, which made anyone who sold it to the market that exists, the billions and billions of dollars, made anyone who sold it a criminal. Made anyone who grew it a criminal. Growing a plant. That was the problem. That's where crime was created. If it hadn't been illegal, then people could have had it growing in their gardens, in their yard. Or in their flower bins at their apartment buildings, on their balconies. It could have been sensible. not send people to jail for growing plants. But because we did that, the average person, of course, doesn't want to be a criminal. But professional criminals are already criminals, so of course they jump in. Now, the money that you spend doesn't stay in your community. It funds a gang who goes out and hurts people. Why? Because we made it illegal. It's this exact same thing as prohibition of alcohol. Not that I'm in support of alcohol. It is fundamentally a poison, and, I drank quite a bit of it in my previous years. I don't now, for, I think, pretty good reasons. And, however, it is something that people wanted. People felt they needed, just like marijuana. You can't suppress that. If you don't provide an honest, community-driven market, honest, community-driven supply, then someone else will step in and they'll do it for the wrong reasons. And they'll do it using violence because that's the corner they've been backed into. So, advocate for legalized marijuana wherever you are, because it'll be good for you. It'll be good for you and your family and your community, I promise you. I promise you. If you know someone who has cancer or some other medical condition whose life could be made easier or better by using marijuana, whether it's edibles or using a vaporizer or just smoking it, please recommend it to them. Speak up. Even if they're conservative, even if they've never thought about doing it, because you know what? Those moments, those illnesses, the fear that's behind them, they'll make you rethink things. If you've tried everything else, you'll probably give it a shot. Because what's to lose? Really, what's to lose at the end of the day if you smoke a joint and you're already dying? Or if you just feel like you're dying? It's a good thing. I fundamentally believe that marijuana is a good thing for humanity. It's something we evolved with. It's something that we are uniquely biologically suited for. It works in us well and does good things for us. It's been used for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. So let's get with the program. Let's keep it in our communities. Make sure that we're allowed to grow it ourselves. Make sure that we're allowed to sell it on a small scale. That they don't block us from keeping and holding onto that power that we've just gotten back. That's the episode on marijuana today. I hope you enjoyed it. I guess it wasn't as, full of laughs as it could have been. But I think it's a serious topic. It's a fun topic. It's an interesting topic. It's fascinating. But it's something that has serious ramifications for the future of humanity, the future of North America, the future of your community. I promise you it's important. So, what do you think? Give me your feedback, your comments, your concerns. Tell me what you've noticed. Is it legal where you are? Soon to be legal? Is there a movement? If not, why haven't you started one? Why haven't you started one? Why haven't you spoken up? If you believe in it. So if there's no movement, start one. If there's no dispensary, find out how you can open one. Look at other states, look at other provinces, look at how they might have reinterpreted the laws, how they might have worked it all out, how they got going. And then start a business. I never wanted to be a small business owner. But this isn't just small business. This is an engine of change. It's an opportunity for change, for something dramatic and something real to happen that can make everyone's life better. So let's do it. Let's make marijuana everywhere. I mean, it already is, but let's make it ours. Let's do it right. Let's start to change things. That's it for this episode of the Radical Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, tell me what you think. Retweet if you agree. Tell your friends. Start your own podcast. All right, folks. Have a great day. Radically yours. I'm Ryan McKenna.